Okay, Senator Ríordáin.
And you're very welcome, Minister, to the Seanad, and it's incredibly apt that just before I rose to my feet, a primary school arrived into the gallery, or I assume it's a primary school, so I want to wish them a very happy trip to the Oireachtas and hope you learn loads. And if you have any questions for the Minister, be sure to just pass them along to me here now, and I'll be sure to get them in before the end. He's here to make sure you get your homework done properly every night. Minister, I do appreciate your presence here today, and I want to be as constructive as I possibly can, particularly in the fact that you have published an action plan for education. I think that's to be commended. I think we need to have a roadmap for where we want to be, what we want to achieve, and education is something that many people in Ireland feel very, very strongly about. However, when you travel around the world and you visit other jurisdictions about what they're doing with education, sometimes the statements they make or the ambition they have can strike a chord, because maybe such an ambition is missing here in Ireland. I spent some time in West Dunbartonshire in Glasgow, visiting a very disadvantaged community there, and they speak of wanting the absolute eradication of illiteracy. The absolute and total eradication of illiteracy. That's their motivation, that is their want, that is their ambition. And wouldn't it be wonderful if in Ireland we spoke of having, as a national obsession in our education system, the total eradication of illiteracy? Because, as you know, Minister, 1 in 3 children leaving disadvantaged schools have basic reading problems, and about 17.9% of our adult population are functionally illiterate. So we have an issue with literacy. We did a huge amount in the last government in trying to address that. You go to Finland, and the Finns will say that the very thing that underpins their education philosophy, and it's not just from one party or another, it's not left or right, it's what they collectively have agreed with, is the word equality. Because they have decided that equality in the education system is what's best for all children. They all accept it. Now, the problem with Ireland is that we don't really have a word or phrase that underpins our education philosophy. I don't believe it is. We do. Because in Ireland, we basically have a publicly funded education system without being a state education system. We outsource it. We outsource it to schools and to boards of management and to patron bodies. And what inevitably happens then is that competition gets into the mix, and you have a system that, to my mind, perpetuates inequality. So we separate children. We separate children on the basis of religion. We separate children on the basis of gender. Where else in Irish society do we think it's acceptable to separate children on the basis of gender, age 4? Is it any surprise that gender stereotypes grow up in Irish society when, in so many schools, probably more of an urban phenomenon than a rural phenomenon, are separated on the basis of gender? But the construct of our education system, Minister, allows this to happen. Now, the Children's Ombudsman, only there last week, asked that the relationship between the state and the education system has to be re-evaluated. I believe it's time for us to set out a roadmap in conjunction with your action plan for education to lance the boil of the constitutional impediment to actually having a genuine state education system. Because when we try to engage in issues such as school books or school transport or having an education system like they have in Northern Ireland, the Department of Education will almost faint with the suggestion that we will have an actual day-to-day engagement and role in managing the day-to-day affairs of schools. They'd be horrified by it. So my point to you is that, Minister, any action plan for education is unlike any other action plan for education in Europe, because we have this constitutional impediment about actually having a day-to-day involvement in the running of schools. This goes back to religious baptism issues and all the rest of it, which, in the full light of day, in a modern republic, do appear to be absolutely crazy. I tried and successfully tried to amend Section 37 of the Employment Equality Act. What was that about? Trying to ensure that LGBT teachers, that divorced teachers, that teachers who are unmarried and had unmarried teachers, if you like, cohabiting, wouldn't be discriminated against by their schools. I could only amend it. I couldn't get it repealed completely because of the constitutional reality in terms of where we stand in the Irish education system. A 3-year-old, as has been proven from the Hart and Rizzi report in 1995, a 3-year-old from a welfare-dependent family has 1/3 the oral language capacity of a 3-year-old from a professional family. As you quite rightly said, Minister, you were down in the north of your city, and you are completely correct that the relationship between the school and the wider community is absolutely paramount. We cannot achieve everything in the school system. Children don't live in schools. But the reality is that we need to have much more certainty around the ABC programme, the one that you were down in Darndale celebrating only recently, Minister. It was great to see you down there. We have rolled out 13 such programmes across the state that work with schools and the wider community in tackling those acute areas of disadvantage. We need some more certainty from you, Minister, in relation to that. And obviously you have a role in talking to the Department of Children in that regard. The issue of SNAs in the education system. There was a report compiled by Senator Mary Moran last year in relation to the role of SNAs, the uncertainty that they feel, the career path that they have, and the fact that they should be much more essential part of the education system and not being chopped and changed year to year as budgetary priorities go up and down. The issue of teacher diversity. The teaching role is such a powerful one. It's such a powerful one to be a powerful role model. How are we addressing the issue of getting more working class kids into teaching roles? How are we addressing the issue of getting more traveller kids into teaching roles? How are we working on the issue of getting more kids from ethnic diverse backgrounds into teaching roles? How powerful would it be in your average Irish primary school, would it be to have a teacher from the travelling community, a teacher from a disadvantaged background, a teacher from an Eastern European background? It doesn't happen that often, and there are many very reasons as to why it doesn't happen, and can we engage with the teaching training colleges as to how we can make that a better situation, because it is such a powerful role. Just to conclude, because I appreciate I'm coming to the end of my time, I suppose it's the ambition that we have, Minister, for the society that we're trying to construct, but it's not just about having economic units. And I know you've come from the Department of Enterprise Employment, and I appreciate that your mindset has had to be maybe reset over the last, recast over the summer months. But it's not just purely to become an economic unit. That's not the point of education. The point of education is to believe and understand the beauty of poetry, the beauty of language, the beauty of music, the beauty of dance, the beauty of sport, the whole basis as why we are alive. That's what education is all about. It's things that are much more profound than just being economic units. And that type of ambition is something that I wish was written throughout this action plan for education. But in terms of those goals of empowering young people to be the best that they possibly can be, if we spoke more about equality being fundamental to our educational vision, if we really try to lance that boil within the Constitution, I think it's something we have to grasp. And lastly, to say, why don't we say that we want to totally eradicate illiteracy in our society as well? If you do that, Minister, the Labour Party will absolutely support you in that regard.